Yeah, hello, what's good everybody, it's your boy Roman Post here with the one and only Jabra Guide. Everything you need to know about him, his stats, his traits, everything you could ever need to know going in. So if you have not gone over his skills and his traits, please read over them real quickly now and make yourself familiar, as I will not be directly going over them in this video. So, without further ado, let's dive into it. Alright, first thing that is up is the stat recommendations. How would you like to build him? Now, ideally, and the most practical, is to run him full HP and defense. The reason being is that it will allow you more survivability, especially against someone like your 5s who are very prominent in the meta, and this allows you to tank a lot more hits and do more damage. Now, if you have read over the skills, you know that both of your skills scale off defense, so needing attack is not necessary. It will allow you to get as tanky as possible without needing to build damage. Now, attack would only be useful on your basic attacks if you're using those. So building no attack will only decrease that damage, and if you do build attack, it will only increase damage on your basic attacks themselves. So the most practical is running HP defense. If you want to have more fun and you're feeling a little more exotic, or you already have a set built for this, then going full attack defense is just fine. Maximizing defense is your priority, and that's the stat you want to focus on in general as a whole. So that's up to you. If you think it'll be more fun, you'll be able to do damage on basic attacks, and you'll be able to do damage on your skills as well. So that's up to you. I'm probably going to stick with HP defense, I think, because I think that's the most useful in terms of how many people have ignored defense skills. So you're going to want that little extra HP to help you survive. Now let's talk about the pros. What makes Jabra good? Why is he viable? And why is he actually really solid in the meta? Now, he's not meta breaking. He is not extremely broken, but he is a very strong and solid character that I do enjoy playing a lot. So first things first is his defense buff. He hits anyone with any of his basic attacks or his skills, and he will increase his defense by 3% up to a total of 50%. Now your skill 1 hits many times, so you can utilize that to stack your defense buff quickly, and then your skill 2 hits at maximum of 4 times, and each hit that your skill 2 hits also gives you your shield, which gives me to his second kind of pro that he has going for him, is the ability to have a shield. Shields are very strong and very overpowered in One Piece Bounding Rush as a whole, and it allows units to take any hit for any amount of damage. So if someone's going to hit on you, one-shot you as a whole, it will allow you to completely mitigate that damage, and you'll still be full health. So this shield is a lifesaver, and you have you have your skill 2 to bring it back at any point in time, if provided you have the cooldown. Your other pro is that you are a multi-hitter unit, so you hit a lot on your skill 1. This can be both a double-edged sword though, because certain units hitting a lot is not good, but other units, and honestly I'd say a majority of the time, hitting multiple times helps a lot. So when you're fighting people like the Seraphims, who are invincible for 3 hits, this goes a long way because it instantly gets rid of that 3-hit invincibility and allows you to one-shot them and destroy them. So your skill 1 will be useful for that multi-hit ability. Your basic attacks are not as many hits, but you can still get the job done with the amount of hits that you get off. Next, your damage, as I've mentioned earlier, scales off defense, which is actually a really new cool mechanic. I do enjoy this a lot, and I've been waiting so long for different scaling on skills and abilities in general with units. You see this in a lot of other games, and it occurs quite often, and I'm very excited that they're actually delving into this realm to kind of explore and see where it'll take the game and the different mechanics as a whole. Next, your skills are decently low on cooldowns. You have ones like 28 or 29, and the other one, your skill 2, is 31 seconds, and this is not including any tags that you have built on your metal sets. So you'll be able to reduce those. If you have full triple tag effect, you'll reduce it by 20%, which will bring it down by a few seconds and lower it even more. So this will allow you to kind of have a lot of uptime on your skills, which is heavily what you revolve around, as those are the ones that one-shot. Your basic attacks are whatever, but you're going to want your skills back to help you survive in general. On top of that, you are immune to immobilizing status effects when you're on the enemy flag. So this means you can be anti-healed, but you cannot be shocked or candyified or tremored, provided you are on the enemy flag, and it is only the enemy flag. So make sure you're not on your flag, make sure you're not out in the open. Staying on the enemy flag is the goal and where you want to be, and you are also immune to knockback and anti-stagger, or stagger in general as well. So these help you kind of destroy your opponents and really annihilate who you're fighting, and it comes in very clutch. So just something to be on the lookout for as you're playing your games. Now let's talk about your cons. I'll be honest, without your shield, you feel relatively squishy, even with maximum defense and building as much HP as you can. Now, he does have a lower HP base stat, so scaling your HP is a little bit more difficult, but it kind of hurts and I still feel relatively squishy. Granted, mine is only level 80 still, but you'll notice One Piece Bounty Rush actually comes with a very little amount of balance, so being one shot is not uncommon in this game. So having your shield up is a priority. If you don't have your shield up, act like you are scared and run away from the opponents until you're able to get that back up, i.e. your skill 2. Next, if you miss one of your skills, it can be rough, especially if you miss your skill 1, which also causes your skill 2. So hitting your skill 1 gives you cooldown on your skill 2. So make sure if you're going to use an ability, you use skill 2 first. Ideally, you don't have a shield, you use your skill 2 first, and then next you use your skill 1. This will load up your shield again, which will give that back, and then it'll reduce the cooldown on your skill 2 as well, so you can get your shield back again. So let me lay it out for you once again. So when you're loaded up in the game, brand new game, you're going to want to start attacking opponents. Use your basic attacks to start until they break your shield. Then, by that chance, you've probably hit them a couple times, got a couple defense buffs and stacks, which will allow you to do more damage on your skill 2. So you'll hit them with your skill 2, that'll give you your shield back. Then you will want to hit them with your skill 1, which will reduce the cooldown in skill 2, and then you will be able to have that skill 2 back quickly as a whole. Now, sometimes that's not an option. Sometimes you just have to dive in and skill 1 from afar because that allows you to get fat defense stacks right away. That is okay. But in general, the former path that I explained is the route that you'll want to take because that is the optimal way to utilize your skills, I would say. Now, building full HP defense makes your basic attacks do really low damage, which can kind of hurt, especially if you're fighting units who take away your skills. So you got to watch out for those because there are units who put skills on cooldown, so be careful who you are fighting. The other con that he has, I didn't put this in the pros, you do have sources of healing. The problem is you only heal against units that you are strong against. So since you are a green attacker, green is only strong against blue colored units. So you would have to be hitting blue in order to heal, or dark colored units. So you'd have to fight one of those two in order to heal. If you don't have that, your only other source of healing is going to be finding a fat slab of meat out on the map. And that is up to you to go find. Next, you are vulnerable to immobilizing status effects from the enemy, so when you are off the enemy flag, so be careful of that. So as I said earlier, with shock and tremor and things like that that prevent your character from moving, you're only immune to those on the enemy flag. So if you're off of that, you got to be careful. So things to watch out for when you're fighting. Now let's talk about characters that you counter. So S-Snake is your #1 character that you destroy and annihilate. You will pretty much 99 times out of 100, you should destroy her and annihilate her. This is the character you were meant to counter. It works really well. Other characters that you destroy, honestly, I wouldn't directly say there's many direct counters. There's just old units who aren't as strong as you are, so I wouldn't count that as you countering them. They're just old and outdated, and it's really just not a fair advantage that they have. So you just kind of have more stats than them and items to work with. So in general, you can one-shot a lot of people. However, a lot of these units are able to one-shot you as well. It really is just who perfect dodges and who lands their skills. On top of that, anyone who doesn't really ignore defense and doesn't have huge attack buffs, I would say they would need a 30% attack buff or more in order to really do damage to you. But anyone without those attack buffs will generally struggle to even do damage to you. So that's just the two things that can really destroy you, in my honest opinion. Or if they have percentage damage, but there's not very many characters of those. Now let's talk about Jabra counters. Honestly, many units who fight him are pretty much one-shot or be one-shot mentality. So there's people like Red Katakuri that can absolutely destroy you. But that's not to say that you can't go and one-shot him. It is entirely possible. Just time and location is really what matters. Who has their skills up? Be careful of Red Katakuri because he can one-shot you through your shield because he hits multiple times. So things like that are something is a main concern, but you won't run into very many Red Katakuris because not very many people have him or have him leveled up. The next one is Gear 5. There are a large abundance of those. Obviously, your shield protects you from them, and if they are defense stacked, generally don't bother fighting them. But if you're fighting a fresh Gear 5, he will generally spam his skills at you, try to perfect dodge one, let your shield tank the other skill, and then he has a third one, so be careful to watch out for that, or just give it some space and let him waste it in somehow, shape, or form. He won't have any defense buffs after all of that. Then, after those are all run their course, you can go in and basically one-shot him. Just use your skill 1 against him first, and then you can use your skill 2 after, and you'll basically destroy him. Now for the real counters, you have Red Katakuri, but you won't encounter him. People who exist in the meta currently right now that you would be fighting are people like Onigashima Zoro, can really destroy you because he's got that red color advantage, and Zoro's whole kit focuses on having color advantage, and having that to start really can hurt you. So watch out for Onigashima Zoro. He will, like 99 times out of 100, probably destroy you before you can destroy him. The next one is kind of Albert. You can kill him, but in general, he'll be able to destroy you because of the defense buffs that you have. So watch out for that. Just things to be taking consideration of as you're out in the league battle fighting on the Rift. Now let's talk about some Jabra medal suggestions. Honestly, the Kaido set, as always, is great all around. This one gives you more skill 1 oriented. I think as you're going through and building your medal sets, generally focus on your skill cooldowns, because that's what keeps you alive and that's what does that overall. So if you can get skill cooldowns, that's something to prioritize, and then damage increase can go secondary to that. So focus on those. This Kaido set gives you a lot of skill 1 cooldown. One thing to keep in mind is your skill 1 gives you skill 2 cooldown. So I would say generally just build skill 2 cooldown. But since your skill 1 does reduce skill 2, both really do work in my opinion. And as long as you're not missing your skill 1, then that's the trade-off. If you're finding yourself missing your skill 1 or you're just too concerned, then you can go and prioritize skill 2 cooldown, which leads me to this Baroque Work set. It doesn't come with very much damage increase, I don't think any at all, but it does give you one of the best skill 2 cooldowns in the game, and it gives you triple tag effects on all of your stuff, so you'll be golden with that, and it works really well. And on top of that, when you use your skill 1, it gives you skill 2 cooldown as well. So really, it's just like all around huge skill 2 cooldown for that one. So Kaido set's great for skill 1, and honestly gives you some damage increase, gives you some damage reduction. Comes with a lot of things going on that. The top one has the event medals, so those are more oriented for attackers. So I would prioritize that if you have the event medals, but if you don't, it is okay. You can run that second set, and you're not going to be performing poorly. The Baroque Work set, I think, is probably my go-to and the one I'm going to want to build out once I do build a new set for him, but I'm not sure yet. And then there's the good all-around damage, is something like Katakuri. Some honorable mentions are some things like the Boa Hancock set. If you're a new player and you're watching this, there are the CP9 medals. There's the different categories that work really well together. So you have CP9 family. You can check out those tags. They work well together. You can find the Toby Ropo, have different mix-matching sets that you can work together. And then you have the Charlotte family. So just look up those tags if you're a new player, and you'll be able to find different options that you can work with. And a large majority of this depends on what units you do have that you've summoned so far. So work with what units you've got, what medals you have, and if you're brand new, the only way you can get medal fragments for characters you don't have is playing with other characters in league battle, so you're kind of reliant on what other people use. So and that's only a chance to get it. You're not guaranteed. So if someone plays the hybrid Kaido form, the only way you're going to get that hybrid Kaido medal fragment is if somehow he performs well and you just have a chance to get it. So it's not guaranteed, you just RNG it. So just things to be on the lookout for. The more you play, the more medal fragments you'll come across, and that's the way that will work. So anyways, you guys, that is all I have for you. I hope you found this guide useful. If you did, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. It would truly help me out a lot. So that's all I have for you guys. I'm your boy Roman Puss, and I'm going to be taking off. Yeah, peace, beautiful people.